This is Governor Bobber, like Good Day Doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
It is a good Friday evening. We are in August. Summer is almost over, but with our 100-degree days, you wouldn't notice. Today was another scorcher, I think. You missed the hottest of the days, I think, Don, while you were
Well, I'm not.
out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, what were the temperatures up here? Because they were not overly kind in Indiana either. But
Yeah, yesterday it felt like it was 100.
yeah,
It felt like it was 100 pretty much. And I basically, yeah, it was rather warm yesterday. It's been warm all week. I mean, yesterday was so hot. I bet you could cook on the concrete out there.
well, I
You
was
know, and
Thursday. I was with the grandkids, and we took them. We took them as per my daughter's request, and plus two of their friends to what's called Holiday World in Christmas, Indiana, and
huh.
so it's a privately owned amusement park, and it's pretty big, but it's very hilly. And it was 90 degrees on, the other day, and I'm like, oh, that was just like it was torture. So that was Wednesday actually. So we did that on Wednesday. It's like, oh, it was. We were there for hours and hours, and I don't know how we survived. But I think that's where I caught this cold by going indoors, outdoors as we were doing various things.
hmm I tell you, a lot of people like what is it? Our friend Bats actually caught COVID while he was in Florida, which I thought, and I'm like, well, I go, Bats, you and I met for lunch. He goes, oh, that was well after that point. So I'm like, okay, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, look, we hear all kinds of people. I mean, we found out just after we got to Indiana that my youngest son had tested positive for COVID. You know, nothing big deal. I mean, just kind of like what we have
Well,
said for
here's
a
the thing.
long time.
Bats
Cold
was not even
symptoms.
that. Yeah, and Bats was not even vaccinated, and he's not having any serious symptoms, which is kind of interesting in its own right there.
He is younger, which gives him a little bit of an edge, right? I mean, but
Yeah, true.
still, I mean, look, you have freedom of choice. You can go ahead
hmm
and get vaxxed or not,
Absolutely.
but I wasn't taking any chances, and I think a lot of us
I,
did because
I I totally agree with you.
why risk it?
Yeah, exactly. Why play chicken? And it's been, by the way, the Orioles are 2 wins away from tying with the Devil Rays, which put them in third place.
There, it's been interesting, right? Yeah, I mean, you got to give them credit. It's like this is not easy. It's not easy for me as a non-Orioles fan, but uh,
Yeah.
they've turned it around remarkably. No one expected them to do what they've done this year, and
Yep.
I mean, they made some trades, this past week. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see how they turn
and
out. But I mean, they were trying to get some full value for some of their players and hoping they pick up some more longer term prospects and improve
I
their
mean, look at the Nats. They're now at the Nats are got 36 wins all year.
mm,
Pathetic, I think.
35. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they traded away obviously the one of the greatest players we may ever see in our
Mm.
lifetime, in Juan Soto, but they got a pretty good haul. We'll have to see. It, I think the Nationals' problem really has been that because the learners are going to sell the team,
hmm
they're in somewhat of a state of flux. They're not really spending money to sign players. They made the offer to Soto, but I think they knew with Scott Boras as the agent, he probably was likely to turn it down, but that gave them the excuse to trade him away, um,
hmm
and everything like that. I'm hoping that whoever buys the team, will not be as chintzy as the learners. The learners have let some good players go over the years.
And they're learning from the what do you call it, the Angelos family, who's been tight with the dollar.
Yeah, I
Frankly,
mean, look, I mean, I know you had said this, and we both agree. I mean, it's like, even when the Orioles were doing terribly, and tanking, but they were number one picks like Adley Rushbat,
Yeah.
is that they still made money, right? Because of TV contracts like that. They didn't have to put a lot of butts in the seats, kind of thing like that. Their payroll was super low, so it was, from a business standpoint, you have a profit. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
From a baseball standpoint, it was horrible baseball. That's terrible for the game. The Nationals are an embarrassment. I'm really disappointed in them because, it's 2019. They win the World Series. 2020 they got gypped because of COVID, and they never really got the full blown celebration they deserve. And that. But letting these stars go and not really being overly aggressive. I understand trading away, Scherzer and Turner to an extent, but they really didn't get much in return in the end, and they let two big-time stars go. So I don't think that in the case of Scherzer, I don't think they would have signed him to a contract like the Mets had done. I don't think they would have been willing to give him that kind of money. But there's not the farm system for the Nationals is terrible. So baseball is a tough game in the sense of economics because there are a lot of those big contracts out there, and a lot of times they don't pay off. I mean, I had mixed emotions about letting Anthony Rendon go. He signed a big contract in LA, but he hasn't. He's been plagued by more injuries, which was part of his problem in Washington. So he's even out. He's out for the year. They're not getting anywhere near the value of that contract in LA.
And here we have it. I mean, if you look at the standings right now, the Orioles are actually, even though they're right now in fourth place, they are right in the thick of things of getting a wild card. Because I
think in the course of we have 105, so we've got 57 games left in the season for the Orioles. It's still a long slog, I mean that's to get there, but you never know. Baseball is funny. I mean, look, the Nationals went from 19-31 to being the World Series champion in 2019. The Braves were pretty awful until about this time last year. They made the trade deadline deals, and then they went on to win the World Series. So you never know. The Orioles are not World Series contenders, but they are potential contenders for wild card, especially since there are more wild card slots than there used to be. So more teams have a chance to make the playoffs. You never know. I mean,
I don't know how I feel about that though. I kind of liked it.
That would be like the biggest story of the year in baseball. I think in a lot of ways, in the sense of the Orioles doing that. And I am kind of secretly rooting for the Orioles because I have a bet with Buster Olney of ESPN that if the Orioles win more game with the Nationals, he'll send me a dinner. So
there you go.
So I think based on where we are right now, I think it's safe to say that the Nationals will not catch the Orioles in victories this year.
No, they will not. And to our friend Mr. Corey, 35 wins, or is it 36 wins? Hey, I'll give you one more win, even if you've only won 35. But come on. And I tell you, and Washington sports fans are not like Orioles fans. They're a little fickle. They have a couple more losing seasons like this. They're not gonna be as profitable. They may go the way of the Senators.
No, I mean, look. One of my complaints would be is just that Angelos, he kind of locked up the Nationals into that lousy TV deal. So the Nationals don't get diddly squat really in revenue there. So they don't get what they deserve to get out of their TV side of things. But that's Angelos being Angelos.
He's a shrewd business guy.
Same thing goes for the Nationals as it did for the Orioles. The Nationals can put a terrible team on the field, but they can still be profitable. But I do think that the Oriole fan base tends there is that diehard mechanism, that group that will support them through thick and thin. I think I agree kind of to your point. I don't see the Nationals as having that same type of thing. And part of that is that, the thing that you like to talk about all the time is that the Nationals are just the Expos, right?
They are. So let's be frank.
The Nationals history in this town goes back to what, 2004, 2005?
Yeah.
So their history here is short, whereas the Orioles' history is much longer.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember Jamie from Free Congress. He used to do their grant writings and stuff like that. And I remember Jamie and I were talking about the Nationals, and there was some kid. He goes, "Yeah, I like the Nationals because they're a new team." And I'm yelling at the television, I go, "Jamie, no, they're not a new team. They're the Expos. They just moved. They just flipped the M around," which was actually one of the commercials Capital One had when they were the official bank, or were they Chevy Chase back then? They were the official bank for the Washington Nationals. But anybody can really become the official whatever if you pay enough money to the
Sure,
teams to
yeah.
do that. Yeah.
You pay. Look, like the same thing happened. You pay enough money, you can put your corporate name on the stadium. I mean, look what happened to Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. Heinz didn't
Yeah.
want to pay the money, and
Mhm.
now it's what's the, I can't remember what the name of it is. Some goofy name,
Hopefully, it's like the Pittsburgh Tribune.
No. I mean, it's just the thing is that it had been Heinz Field for like 20 years, and they
Mhm.
had. I didn't realize because I never had been there, but they had a ketchup bottle that would actually kind of spit out like fake ketchup when or
Oh,
something
really?
like that. And all that's gone there because Heinz no longer has an affiliation with the team. It's one of these tech companies or type of things like that is took the naming rights. So
Yeah.
I will say
Remember
that
Yeah.
I like it. I like the old days. I mean, Camden Yards is a great name, right?
Yep.
Nationals Park is fine because it's just Nationals Park, right?
Mhm.
And they're not fighting over all sometimes these companies that we never heard of. Look at all those college football bowl games. And
Yeah.
it's like, it'd be the Orange Bowl, but it's something Orange Bowl, right? There's a
Yeah.
sponsor, the
It used to be the
Tostitos.
It used to be the Tropicana Orange Bowl. Then it
Yeah.
also was the Florida Orange Growers Orange Bowl at one point.
Yeah, I mean, but now it's gotten to where the affiliations are like, who are these people?
No, well, it's like I never understood the USF&G Sugar Bowl. USF&G has nothing to do with the sugar
Oh yeah,
industry.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
And now I
and
think
they pay enough
Domino
money.
Sugar is the sponsor of the Sugar Bowl, or they were for a while. But I mean, remember back in the .com boom, you had 3Com was the sponsors for the Giant Stadium.
That's right.
You had
3
PSI Net was it was the Ravens stadium was PSI Net Stadium, and boy, those things went away really fast.
Yeah, I mean,
The .coms.
I think we went from the old Candlestick Park to when they built the new stadium. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, to
you had
3Com Park. Yeah,
you had 3Com, Pac Bell, AT&T. You lose track of what the heck the stadium names are unless you're
yeah.
actually there working for these guys on a regular
Yeah,
basis.
and those two 3Com and Pac Bell don't even exist anymore. And I mean, I think I want to say Microsoft even had the naming rights for some stadiums somewhere. Maybe it was I don't think it was it was maybe it was Seattle. Maybe they had the Seahawks stadium was Microsoft Field or whatever. But I know they also had some, or maybe it was one of their basketball teams or something like that. But a lot of these, it's funny how I'm a capitalist. By the way, if USFNG wants to call this the USFNG Doctor Politics Show, we will gladly take your money. Is
That's correct.
USFNG still around? Are they even still around? USFNG?
I have no idea. They may have been merged into something else by now.
Yeah, no. I mean, USFNG. They used to do life insurance, right?
Yeah, I think it was the U.S. Fidelity and Guarantee or something like that.
Is that what it was? Yes, it was American Insurance Company, 1896 to 1998. State Fidelity and Guarantee Company. So they're no longer around. They went away in 1998.
All right, here's
Hey,
something for you.
they were Baltimore. They were a Baltimore-based company too.
Yeah, that's right.
I
That's
had no
right.
idea. Yeah.
So let me let me let
That's-
me let me throw this out there too, because you have all this history in your mind and all this nostalgia kind of thing like that. So
uh-huh.
we're driving from in Indiana from my daughter's home to the Santa Claus, Indiana. As a matter of fact, this holiday world thing is owned by a Koch family. Nothing to do with the Kochs that are known in the conservative politics, but this
Mhm.
Koch family had a lot of history in Evansville, Indiana area and stuff like that. But as we're driving through a town called Boonville, and
Mhm.
there's a Daniel Boone National Forest out in this vicinity. we passed by a store with a big sign that says TF on it, right? It's an ice cream store.
Mhm.
And my 10-year-old grandson goes like, "Oh, Tasty Freeze." Well, so it made me curious. I'm like, why is this TF and not Tasty Freeze? So I actually went to Wikipedia to see the internet to see what was
Mhm.
going on. That used to be a Tasty Freeze in Boonville, Indiana, but they
Yeah.
had actually started making they had done some kind of like pineapple orange
Mhm.
sherbet thing or something like that. And Tasty Freeze says, that's not part of our official ice
Yep.
cream or whatever. You can't do it. So they separated, and the guy who bought it, his initials actually happened to be TF. So anyway, so it's a TF. I mean, but it was originally a Tasty Freeze, which was started by a guy who used to work for Dairy Queen, right?
Yeah.
But my wife, Young and I we're thinking about, when my grandson blurts this out, we're thinking like, Tasty Freeze. The company started in like 1950. My grandson's
Maybe he's a
10 years
fan of
old.
John Cougar Mellencamp.
There's hardly any Tasty Freezes left in the country.
Yeah. Well,
And I
maybe
don't.
he listens to a lot of John Mellencamp.
Yeah, I'm not even sure there's one in the town that he lives in Indiana. But it was kind of, I'm like, how did this kid know this about this ice cream
Yeah.
shop and stuff like that? So you never know.
Yeah. It's or like I said, he might be a John Mellencamp fan because Jack and Diane talk about a side of Tasty Freeze. Maybe that's how he knows this. Yeah.
Did they really? Is it in there?
They do mention Tasty Freeze. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go back and look at those lyrics.
Yeah, and but as much fun as this, we think we spent 20 minutes talking about baseball and nostalgia.
We just
You
kind of
know,
go down that.
yeah, I mean,
That's what this
it's
show is very for.
exactly. We, like, by the way, if Young likes, well, they turn into when you buy them in the freezer, they're called Italian cut beans. I think they're like flat beans, is what they're called. They're like string beans, but they're flat.
Hmm.
If Young likes those, I got a whole bunch from the garden I can bring by at some point.
Sure, I'm sure she'll take those anytime.
Okay. Yeah. And I got a whole bunch of hot peppers coming in too.
So,
Everything's coming in all at once. I go to Florida. My plants are like only like this high from the ground. I come back to like shot up. And I get to go
I'm trying
down.
to figure when I'm going to cut my grass because I've been away for like 8 days.
Mhm.
Look at the forecast. It looks like there's going to chance of rain like every day for the next several days. I'm like,
Did you get a lot of rain today?
we had a lot of thunder, but I haven't seen the rain yet.
We had a little bit, not a lot, like down count. But yesterday, as I was, because evidently the lights were out while I was going up to Rockville for our Pizza and Politics. I was cutting through, I took the exit for 28, take that to get up to Shady Grove, right? But, the lights were out, so I just went straight through that neighborhood because I know that neighborhood hits Rockville Pike. A lot of trees were down in that neighborhood. I'm wondering, did they have a tornado or something like that? I don't know, because a lot of trees were down. Which explains why the traffic lights were off. And what's funny is there's one of Montgomery County's finest there, and what's he do? You think he'd be directing traffic? No, there was a car that was abandoned. He's there putting up those flares. It had the hazards on. There was no one in there. You think it'd be more important that you direct the traffic because the lights are out, because nobody's really stopping. Because most people don't understand that when the lights are out, you treat it as a four-way stop. But no, nobody does that. They just keep rolling through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some crazy wicked storms last night, from what I understand.
Yeah, that's what I
And
mean. My brother-in-law is in town. I mean, he was
mhm,
here. He's been here for a work seminar or something meeting, and
mhm,
he finished up this afternoon, and so he's staying with me until he flies out on Sunday. And
mhm,
he was one of like 10 people from his company that came out from Utah for this thing. And I
mhm,
think he said one of the guys left yesterday to go home, but those storms, canceled flight,
mhm.
delays.
Oh
I
yeah.
think he figures this, and this rerouting, is
Mhm.
going to get home at like 3 or 4 a.m. today. I mean, it was just going to be, it was a ridiculous, and I really don't like air travel in general. When it is, I made one decision to say I'm going to fly more when I go visit my grandkids. This
Mhm.
10-hour drive thing. I really don't want to do anymore. I want to kind of do a fly drive. Fly to
Yeah.
Louisville. You can fly. We found out we could fly directly from BWI to Louisville, and then
Hmm.
you could rent a car and then drive 2 hours to Newburgh, Evansville, Indiana. I think that's a lot
Hmm.
better for me, and I think the cost of doing so is about equivalent to paying for all
Yeah.
the gas and wear and tear on the car, and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to fly, I would prefer direct flights. I think are
Hmm.
just so much better. My problem yesterday trying to get home was my connecting flight was canceled, so
Yeah.
left me in kind of a lurch. So
I mean, I'm going to Florida again for the Brevard County Lincoln Reagan dinner. I was invited to come down, so I'm going to fly down on the 31st. I was going to drive, but then it's like this. You spent $200, around $200 with tax and everything, staying at a hotel in Florence. Uh, I found decent prices on gas. Like once I got into North Carolina, like I filled up at Bucky's for $3.45 in South Carolina. But you have to go to Bucky's. It's a destination. It's not just a truck stop. It's
I was
a
going to ask you, had
destination.
you ever been to one of those before?
No, this is the first time because the Bucky's just opened
Okay,
on
yeah, I'm
95.
curious because I mean I've read a lot about them and they're quite an enterprise. So I,
Yeah.
I wish we would get some up here just so I can experience it.
I mean, I wish we had a few loves in Montgomery County or in Maryland in general. Jason, was it 2 weeks ago? He pointed out where there is a Loves, or was it last week? He pointed out
Yeah.
there is a Loves, in, Western Maryland, out past Cumberland in that area. Lucky people. Loves is a great place. And again, I can't thank Governor Allen enough for having the Richmond bypass. Let me tell you, when I was driving down all the way to Ashland, it was like stop and go, stop and go. It's like, and it wasn't even like an accident, it was just people driving slow. I get on the Richmond bypass, I'm blowing through there at 80 miles an hour, 80, 85 miles an hour, in a red Yukon, obviously, if anybody, but, it was great, and then, I got over, got past Richmond. And then once I got into North Carolina has like almost a 50-mile construction zone on 95 around Lumberton, which is like, what are you guys doing? It's like, it's so annoying. But I found out if you leave early enough from Florence, those construction zones aren't so bad. But it's kind of hard to hit the construction zones at the right time when you're going south, because unless I'm leaving here.
I don't think we have had a single trip, and we've taken many road trips in the last 5 years to
Yeah.
Indiana. I don't think that we've had a
You
single
take,
trip where we haven't hit road construction, of some sort, mostly in West Virginia, and then
oh,
also
not on
in.
the Pennsylvania Turnpike. You don't take the Pennsylvania Turnpike across.
No, we go from here to Frederick, get gas up, and then go through
Oh,
West
that's right.
through
Okay,
Charles.
so you don't take 70 straight. You don't take 70.
No, I mean we wind up
That's
on
right. You're
what
not
is
going to Indianapolis. You're not going to
64.
Indianapolis. Yeah,
Go through
64. Yeah,
we go through Cumberland and everything like
yeah.
that.
That's a nice road, but it's a lot nicer than 70. I mean, like my travels have been most doing 70 because I'm hitting, places when I've driven down. It's like Chicago, Evanston, stuff like that. Off of 70. Cleveland, Indianapolis. Columbus. All those, Ohio towns and Pittsburgh 170, the PA Turnpike. PA Turnpike, when I drove to Cleveland, I was kind of pleasantly surprised there was no massive construction on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Because
Yeah,
that's like notorious for construction there.
our old pal. I mean, Mal Klein. I mean, he's from
Hmm.
Pennsylvania, and that's the one thing he said. It's just that has been something that's gone on for decades. It's just kind of like, it's just a stop to the union workers. They just continue road work, road work, road work. It's everywhere you go in Pennsylvania.
Yep. And it's basically their state tree. The joke is a construction sign is their state tree. You
I
know,
believe it.
because I mean, I used to drive up to, as up lower the southern tier of upstate New York in the Binghamton area. But I tell you, from Wilkes-Barre to Scranton, tons of construction all the time without fail. Construction, construction, construction. You know, and it was a nightmare. And that was also back when they were doing construction on 81, Interstate 83 too in Baltimore. And that was, by the way, Baltimore Beltway. That's another one that's always construction. I remember when I was about 5 or 4 years old. We were driving to Harrisburg and we took 83 up. I remember this because that was the first time I saw that bridge over on the Baltimore Beltway that has like 6 decks going over it or 5 decks, whatever it is. Very impressive. An engineering marvel by all standards. But I do remember a lot of construction on the Baltimore Beltway and on 83. And it's funny, I was talking to our friend Al, and I go, there's been construction there since I was 4 years old. Isn't it about time things get done? But speaking of construction, what were the new administrations? I notice. I know Dan Cox really hasn't said much about what his transportation initiatives are going to be, but hopefully, get more roads built under a Governor Cox. I mean, Wes Moore is a Democrat, so he's probably going to want to put bike lanes and stuff like that everywhere. But that's really important. People can learn a lot from Governor Ehrlich and Governor Allen. The ICC saves a lot of headaches for people. The Richmond bypass saves a lot of headaches for a lot of people. But in addition to just, wow, today's been our hobby horse show.
Yeah, I
But
don't know. I don't know. Has there been any early polling on Moore versus Cox at this point?
not that I've seen.
I
Not
mean,
that I've seen.
my general feeling is that you've got Cox, who's definitely not going to get the broad base support as I think Schultz would have appealed to. Moore's not a great candidate, but I think unless Cox does something very
Yeah.
Hogan like, is that
Yeah.
it's just that the Democrats will probably in essence just vote Democrat. They're not going to cross party lines. Moore will probably win. I don't really have a hard time envisioning what Dan Cox's path to victory is in Maryland.
Mm-hmm. And it's, yeah, I agree. It's a tough path. There is a path. It's a very, very narrow path, but but we also have great candidates: Jessica Hare in Anne Arundel County, Michael Huff in Frederick County. We got Bob Castley in Harford County, Julie Gordana in Wycomico. She should win. So we've got a much better bench than the Democrats do, frankly. I mean, look at this time around. They're the most experienced people they had running on the Democrat side were Doug Gansler and Peter Francho, and they got blown out of the water, by a quasi community organizer in Tom Perez and Wes Moore. Who Wes Moore, I have a little bit of respect for Wes Moore. I mean, he has, which I'm kind of surprised he's a Democrat. He came up through bootstrap economics. He pulled himself up, and he, kind of like a lot like Dr. Ben Carson. But I don't see how he is a Democrat, frankly. Because the Democrats say, "Oh, you're stuck with the lot you're given in life," And here we have Wes Moore, who kind of climbed out of climbed out, and now I believe he's a multimillionaire or a billionaire in Maryland. Businessman. Much like Donald Trump, a businessman. And
Just without the mean tweets.
Who knows? He might have some mean tweets also, Don.
There's still time to dig those up.
Yeah, he may have some mean tweets,
So, I didn't look. I haven't looked at the latest, MoCo results.
Mm-hmm. I tell you,
is it still tight?
Right now, Elric is up, I think, by 30 votes, but they still have 15,000 uncounted ballots. What is the matter with every other county? Maryland has 23 counties in Baltimore City. Baltimore City and 22 other counties have counted their votes already and tallied and certified. I mean, I'm thinking the same people that count the Montgomery County votes at our state party convention are counting the votes at the board of election these days. I don't know if you've been to. I think you were at one of the state party convention where I think it was the one in Ocean City, the one in Rocky Gap. I mean, I think it took almost 15, 20 minutes for Montgomery County to count the votes. You know, and it's embarrassing, frankly. And the fact that Baltimore City can count the votes, And by the way, Mark Ellis says, "Well, we're a very big county. So is Baltimore County. Their population is on par with ours. Baltimore City on par with our population. Prince George's County on par with our population. It's not that drastically different." And if they all can count their votes, what's the matter with you? I think I should be sending some abacuses over to the Board of Elections so they can count better. Because I tell you, if we get to November and it's like this, stuff like this is what opens the door for the talk about fraud, funny business shenanigans, when it's just utter incompetence.
Yeah, one thing I haven't looked into very deeply, maybe you guys had already talked about this before, with the others in the group chat, was just that, Hogan, didn't he kind of vetoed or didn't approve of letting the jurisdiction starting to count the ballots early for the mail-in, and stuff like that. I'm not quite sure what the reasoning there was for that. It just seems that you get off to a little bit better start, though there still is no excuse for Montgomery County. We're sitting here, it's August 5th. Why are we sitting here at August 5th and we still don't know?
We're not even going to know until a week from Saturday, not even tomorrow. A week from tomorrow is when we will know. A week from tomorrow. Let that sink in, everyone. It is almost taking us a month to count the ballots. I mean, what are we doing? Counting these by hand? Are we like, and does somebody lose count?
Well, I think this also shows the flaws in this whole anybody can vote by mail.
Yes.
In the old days, you had to have a reason to vote by absentee ballot. Now it's no excuses. Everybody can go do it, and a lot of people do, and they get a lot more of that because they can't count them right away and all these other things. You can postmark them by the midnight of the election night. They have to be delivered to the election board by like Friday, 3 days later. There's a lot of things going on in there where you have days where you're waiting before you have how many ballots are going to be counting. This is not a very tenable situation. They opened up this Pandora's box and they're being embarrassed by this. I don't know. I mean, does our good friend Nahid have anything to say on this matter, or is she just?
She's just saying, it's just, it's basically the rules that have been set in place by Mark Elric, and by the way, the Democrats think it's because there's not enough money being spent at the Board of Elections, and I'm thinking like, why that should, I go, but we know they're not spending that money on the members of the board. Actually, they're spending it on a lot of the staff. And frankly, how about you invest in counting classes for your people? I mean, they want more money. I mean, that's the typical Democrat. It's kind of like the quote Inflation Reduction Act that they've got going on right now, which is not going to cut inflation. I know they're touting today's job numbers, but I'm more interested in what July's inflation numbers are. It might go down a little bit because the price of gas fell because of lack of demand. But I think come September, we're going to start seeing a spike in the surge in the price of gas again. And we are in a recession, 2 negative quarters. That's how we always define recession. And Don, I don't know if you remember back in 2004, when President George W. Bush was in the White House, the economy was going great. We were growing, unemployment was low. And what were the Democrats doing? You had John Kerry on the one of the stump speeches said, "Well, you could if you're smart, you can get a job. Otherwise, you'll go to Iraq and die," something along those lines. And I mean, John Kerry and the Democrats in '04 tried to talk the economy into a recession. And it is, quite frankly, the worst thing any political party can do is try to sink an economy for political gains. We're not doing that because the economy is. I mean, you go to the grocery store, you see empty shelves. You see that. I mean, I was over at Safeway, and they had a sign there because of our distributors, and the egg prices have gone up because they've raised the price. They got to, it's in Florida. Publix for the longest time held out on passing the cost. Even Publix has passed the cost down. They were trying to hold the line on it for the longest time. But I mean, it gets to a point where there's only so much you can do. You can't give this stuff away. You're in business to make money. Um, and I know some of these Democrats like to talk about, oh, well, you Republicans are against this living wage. Got news for you. The living wage is one of the reasons we're in this mess right now. When you pay a McDonald's worker $15 an hour, the cost of that dollar value meal becomes a $2 value meal or a $3 value meal. you know and it's not because and that's a contributing factor to inflation. When you have to pay people more, you got to pass those costs down. I mean, I was at my local giant on Old Georgetown, where I was just talking to one of the people there. I go, so how's it look for you guys? I go, I see you guys have a help wanted sign out in the window, and I go, how's it looking for you guys? He was telling me how we'll hire people, and they'll come, they'll get trained, and they'll quit after 2 days. They don't realize all the cost that goes into when you hire somebody. You got to pay to run the background checks, the verification. That all costs money. Training them costs money. And then when you quit after 3 days, they got to do the exact same thing all over again. And that's another problem that we're having right now. I think people have just gotten to be lazy. They've got used to having free money coming down the pike. And this is going to be a big hole we're going to have to dig out of in 2024. When maybe President Pence, President DeSantis, President maybe Trump, any Republican president, frankly. You know,
Yeah, one of the dangers. I mean, and you kind of alluded to it in the sense of the increasing cost of labor at a McDonald's. When you go walking around, I mean, we go to Lidl and that. Well, we go to both Lidl and Aldi, but I mean, Aldi usually has like a little sandwich board, looking for managers. And
yep.
I remember when it was a year or two ago. They were that thing was showing like starting salaries were like pay was like $12 an hour. Now you walk to that store and it's $17 an hour to work in the grocery store.
Yeah.
And you see all this around. You can read stories of McDonald's paying, $17, $18, $19, $20 an hour to work in a McDonald's. But what happens? This is the danger of where we are is a wage price spiral, right? I mean, wages get up. People think, oh, this is great, I'm making more money. But what it does is put so much pressure on everything else. It's prices start to spiral. So they're not catching up. They're falling further behind.
And yesterday was National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. A chocolate chip cookie at your Giant, okay, a year ago it was about $1.09. It's about $2 right now at the Giant. It's a large cookie, but what's the point of eating a small cookie, right? And we've got, it's basically, if you make cookies at home, it costs you 40 cents a cookie, opposed to 19 cents a cookie, And let me tell you, you don't want to go to Crumble and buy. You go to Crumble and buy these same cookies. It's going to cost a lot more than $2. I think Crumble is almost like $4 a cookie. I don't know. I really don't.
It depends on where you are. So, in Evansville, Indiana, one Crumble cookie I think was $3.83, and here if you tried to buy it, I think it's like $4.59 or something like that.
Yeah. When I was in Florida, yeah. And in Florida, I bought a dozen. It was like $35 for a dozen of them. And they're not that good. They're not that good.
Oh, they're good. Yeah. it depends on what you want. I mean, I love them. If I buy, I go for those chocolate flavors I can get. But I
Mhm.
bought 6 of them with the grandkids for them.
They had a
So
coconut one that I did like. I did kind of like the coconut one they had. They had one that was coconut,
yeah, they do that. See,
and
I'm not a big coconut fan, so it's like, give me the molten
yeah,
lava, give me the brownie, and stuff like that. We had pineapple upside down cookie, which was really good. Um, So it's a lot of fun. But you talk about the cost of cookies. We were given a plastic tub of cookies, a couple of
hmm
them. We were going to give them to the missionaries from somebody else who had a farewell
yeah,
for their son, and we took some of them. We asked them if we could take some of them home. But Young looked at these, and the family had bought these at Costco. So it's a plastic
yeah,
thing. The cookies are what about that big. They're the small
yeah,
chocolate chip
yeah,
cookies. And she
yeah,
knew the price on there was like $9.99 for that thing.
yeah,
She says,
yeah,
she goes, these used to be $7.99. Okay,
yeah.
so that went from $8 to $10. That's
hmm
25%.
Yeah,
This is not 9% inflation. This is 25%.
yeah. And you used to have you used to do vending machines, right? Like the good old grandma's cookies. You get two cookies in a pack. It used to be $1.50 in the actually 75 cents actually in the vending machines. At least the ones at Goddard, right?
Yeah,
Same vending machine, $1.50 today. $1.50. You know, I mean, at a bakery, I mean, it's like over $3 for a cookie. And by the way, I just for fun took my grandmother's homemade cookie recipe, which is really good. I put it up on my campaign site. But to make those cookies, this recipe makes 2 dozen cookies, which is it's a decent amount of cookies, right? But it costs $9.72 to make 2 dozen, 24 cookies. In 2020, it was $4.80. And it's kind of and good luck if you want to have some milk with that. You know, what do you call milk is about, like if you want to get, a gallon of milk is like $5. If you buy the small, like what is it? I guess how many ounces? I guess it's a 10 ounce thing of milk. You get the small things at 7-Eleven. That's like $3. I know.
yeah. I mean, all this
Yeah.
stuff has gone up. I mean, you mentioned like eggs and stuff like that before. I mean, we
Yeah.
part of the problem there too was that bird flu thing or whatever that wiped out a lot of
hmm
chicks. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, Young uses a lot of eggs for lots of different things. A lot of time even to feed the missionaries,
hmm
and some recipes call for using a dozen or more eggs.
Yeah.
You know, there was a time not that long ago when she could go to Walmart and buy the jumbo eggs for like
hmm
86 cents a dozen. We
Yeah.
were in Evansville, this past week, and we checked the Walmart out in the other city, Newburgh. She just wanted to kind of see what it was. I said, those dozen jumbo eggs are 386 right now. That's just like,
It's like
okay, this is, you know, these are some fairly basic ingredients for things for people to use that used to be fairly cheap, but it gets hard when your basics, when you're the things that you want, the bread, the eggs, the milk,
yeah.
cost so much money.
Yeah. I mean, it's like as I say, things are always worse with Democrats. Democrats ruin everything. It's funny. I mean, I did the same thing with Donut Day about a month ago. I guess in April or May we had Donut Day, National Donut Day, and donuts have gone up. I mean, poor Homer Simpson. That donuts used to be like 10 cents each a donut. Now donuts are. I mean, even like 2 years ago, donuts were like $1, or you could get them for 50 cents sometimes. But they're about but they're about 50 cents, 40 cents a dozen each the donuts. But now they're like $1 plus for a donut.
Yeah,
And
if you go to Dunkin' Donuts, you got to pay like I think you pay like $1.09 or last time I
yeah,
went was a couple of years ago for the burger, and then if you want the filled donuts, you pay even more than that,
yeah,
like that, right? So it
I'm
adds
not a
up.
fan of the filled donuts though.
Uh, Young is Boston cream, Bavarian cream all the way. She just she bought half a dozen at Walmart the other day. She was going.
Yeah.
We were there. We were there the other day in Indiana, and she was going to buy some more because she promised the kids. But we were there around 6 o'clock in the morning, and they hadn't finished making the donuts yet. So they were like,
Yeah.
they're too hot right now. You come back in an hour and a half, and they'll be ready. And you're like, that's not going to happen. But
Hey,
yeah,
do people still go to Duck Donuts at all? I mean, I remember Duck Donuts was a big thing.
yeah, I think Duck Donuts is
Hello,
still there.
Susan.
And I was thinking about good evening. I was thinking about Krispy Kreme, because Krispy Kreme, I think they thought they had something going there where, every Wednesday they were selling a dozen donuts for the price of, a gallon of gas.
Yeah.
I want to know. I wonder how long will they continue doing that as the price of gas drops, right? Because
Yeah.
when it was around $5, but now it's down to like $3 or whatever. So
I haven't found too many $3. Still, like last night, I filled up. It was $4.79 a gallon
hey,
at
can
the
you hold on?
BP station.
I think my brother-in-law is having trouble getting inside the house.
Sure, no problem. We can talk. Yeah, I do like the Montgomery Donuts. It's a great place. We used to use Montgomery Donuts for our high school fundraisers. We would buy them for a nickel and sell them for 25 cents. Those donuts were a cash cow. And over at Montgomery Blair High School, there was a Dunkin' Donuts right there on Wayne Avenue. And those donuts were always great. One of our advisors would go buy a box, a dozen donuts for $3 or something like that, or $2
Those
a
were the
box.
days.
And we used to use those as fundraisers. And that was like a cash cow for us. I mean, I remember my freshman year, the big thing was M&Ms, and I never understood why resale M&Ms came in little cardboard boxes, like when we get the box opposed to bags. I don't even know if they do that anymore. Probably, but they come in boxes. And people got sick. Everybody did M&Ms for the longest time, and then I want to say it may have been Chris Haas's class, who, by the way, is now on the Central Committee in District 16.
That's another thing. It's like, are you going to be the shadow guy behind him, or somebody to direct Chris?
No, I'm going to be the guy in Florida soon.
As Susan says, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's part of the thing too. Is that you can get all kinds. You can get M&Ms customized.
Yeah.
They're not cheap that way.
No, they're not. I mean, you get them like you can get like I know this for weddings. You can get your name stamped on them. The bride and groom get that stamped on there. I think it's a little bit of an overkill. These people are going to eat them. Just get the. I remember hearing certain people talk about how I like the blue ones. I like these. Something, kid. In my days, we had the tan, the brown, the orange, and there was always those one or two green ones in there and yellows. And we liked them all just the same. And they all do taste the same. It doesn't matter what the color is. You get silver M&Ms now. Like we go to like Party City and places like that. You get like silver M&Ms.
I'm waiting for the pumpkin spice M&Ms. Okay.
Oh, don't get me started. Do not. I tell you, my friend Roger he's in Austin, and he found pumpkin spice cookies.
Yeah. My friend Jeff Quinton posted. I think it was the same picture. It wasn't the Oreos.
Yeah, it was the Oreos. Yes,
they're on the shelves on 8/15 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. No, Roger said he saw them there August 2nd, and I'm thinking and I have to wait till
I may actually have to buy
February
those.
15th.
Was it you or somebody else said they haven't been on the shelves for 5 years? So I don't know.
What pumpkin spice
for Oreos?
Oreos?
Yeah.
Huh.
Dwight. It's hard to keep track of those flavors. They have so many different varieties. I can't. It's like if something disappeared, I don't buy enough of those things to notice. I wouldn't notice. Yeah. I also want to, since I missed something here, I just want to say I see the comment from Susan about Montgomery Donuts. Yeah, here. I remember that from my youth.
Mm-hmm. But these are very hard to find.
Not the most efficient operation in the world when I would go into a store, but the donuts were really good.
Hey, Don, look at this. It says family size.
Yeah.
What, a family of what?
Is that 6 ounces or more? How what?
7.75 ounces.
Yeah, 7.75. Yeah.
That's hard. Yeah, what family are you going to? What is this? A family of one? But these are harder and harder to find. The wavy ones. You can find the other ones all the time, relatively easy. But the wavy ones are hard to find. And that was one of my props. I almost forgot about it. But when we started talking about food,
Susan,
But
she had friends. She had somebody who actually had a Montgomery donut store. What? How great was that?
I know. Was it the one in Gaithersburg or was it the one in downtown Silver Spring? Because there was one in Gaithersburg. There was one in Rockville.
One in Rockville. Wasn't the one in Rockville like the big one though in terms of
that was their bakery store, like the big bakery in there. And I don't know if you remember, there used to be an Entenmann's bakery in Rockville, which is now Alito's Pizza, which is I think it got better. Actually no, it's a Duck Donut.
Right. So if you turn a donut store into a pizza store, it's a winner, right?
No, actually, the donut store is now the donut store is now another donut store. It's Duck Donuts. The Lido's is on the top side.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Duck Donuts was not the same area where
there's an Entenmann's bakery.
Shop? Yeah,
that became the Duck Donuts. And I must say, the Entenmann's.
There was another one in Rockville, not the one on Goody. What was that?
Oh, you know what that was? That was, I want to say that was near where the hot shops used to be, near Congressional Plaza.
Okay.
Near the Shakey's, if I'm not mistaken, which is now a ale house, which is going to be vacant soon.
Yeah.
But anyway, that place, the food sucked. I mean, the service really went down. I remember there was one time we went there and they kind of refused service because we had our Trump shirts on in there.
All right, Susan. I think it's politically incorrect and insensitive of you to call it Monkey College now, even though that's exactly what we knew it by when I was in my 20s.
Really? Was that Harvard on the Pike? Was Harvard on the Pike even
Harvard
there?
On the Pike, Monkey College. Yep, Harvard on the Pike. Yep, all those things we used to throw at them.
Yale on the rail.
All right, Dwight, she has verified your excellent memory for where that location was.
Yeah. And by the way, I was reading a book on the Marriotts. They started off as a food services company. They're just,
Well, I mean,
I had no idea the hot shops were Marriott.
A root beer stand, and then just took it from there.
And I had no idea hot shops was also a Marriott property.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I did not know that, and I also did not know that Alley's, which is a San Diego restaurant, that was also a Marriott property.
Yep, named after Alice Marriott.
Yep, and they also did airline food. I knew they did food service at the University of Maryland, and they also did food services. I think.
Well, they had the host Marriott services, and so they did. They had contracts for airline stuff, a lot of industrial stuff, things that you could go to college campuses, and HMS would have stuff there. So I think they sold that one to Sodexo, I think, right?
Yep. And now basically they're all basically just they're basically like the largest hotel chain in the world probably right now, because they bought Starboard, which is the Sheratons and the 4 Point Sheratons. They own, they brought Extended Stay or whatever. You can't turn around another Marriott property, And now Marriott's also going into the they're competing with it's kind of like our we actually stayed at one, or Embassy Suites, which is also now a Marriott property. They have this place. It's like the Place or something like that, but it's also a Marriott. It's basically for travelers, and it's supposed to be like a budget type thing, but they stride on, their big thing is quality and service. I want to say it might be Host 2 or something like that, or a Loft or something like that.
Yeah,
really.
The problem now is to try to keep all the brands that these guys have developed and everything done separate. Marriott's business model may have been the best one in the
Yeah.
long run. In terms of they manage the properties, they own virtually
Mhm.
none of the properties,
I mean,
whereas a lot of other hotel chains, the only thing that they knew was that they owned and operated each of those locations.
mhm.
But being the developer and then
Yeah.
selling it to other investors and other people to manage,
Yeah.
then you
I
can
mean,
then carry the Marriott brand, and that seems to be that's a
and
very profitable thing. You don't get all the extra carrying costs.
and this all started with Bill Marriott when he took over when his dad retired. I think it's Bill. Yeah, Bill Marriott, and he's the one that they kind of blew up after that. I mean, like Marriott everywhere. I mean, they even tried to buy Denny's actually at one point, and Denny's they sold to someone else. Which I mean, the food at
I
Denny's
think
isn't that.
Marriott in the end realizes that you know they need to stick to their knitting, and that the best thing to
Yeah.
do is to stay right in the hotel business. A lot
Yep.
of these other ventures, because we talk about Host Marriott Services. I mean, I think
Yeah.
they owned Roy Rogers back in the day.
Yep. Roy Rogers, Geno's. They bought Geno's.
Yeah,
If you
they had a bunch of
recall.
those things, but the restaurant business is a very hard business to run,
It is.
remain profitable, and things like that. And so I think, you know, if you're focused on running restaurants, you're okay. That's what you should do. But it's when you start extending and dabbling. So I think Marriott just, as time came along, by just sticking to hotels and travelers and things like that, that's their bread and butter. That's their knitting. That's what you do, and you do it, and you do it well. You don't need these other things. That it's kind of like the old ITT, conglomerate phase.
Yep.
They will buy gazillion all these globs of companies,
Yeah.
but it was very hard to run them all in the end.
Yep. And we saw what happened to ITT as a result of
Right,
all that.
right. All right,
And
we're at the
but
top of the hour.
Marriott, yeah. Final thoughts and kudos to Marriott, homegrown Maryland business.
Yeah. I mean,
And they've got that.
they've been stalwarts of the area. They've been supporters of all kinds of civic causes, and so.
Yeah, and good Republican family too. They had a fundraiser for Kelly Schultz.
Oh, did they? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they also did an event. They also, do you remember when Mitt Romney came to the Conference Center Hotel? They were like it was the Marriotts, the Criswells, and some other family that were like the uh, big supporters of. They were like the underwriters of that fundraiser they did at the Conference Center Hotel when Mitt Romney came out to Rockville.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, we're at final thoughts. Don, final thoughts.
All right. Brittany Griner. So she's now been convicted in Russia. Was it for 9 years in prison for drug smuggling? This is a lot of show. This is. We'll wait and see exactly how this prisoner swap will go, but it's probably inevitable that Griner and Paul Whelan will be swapped for a couple of other Russians, some kind of heinous people. But it's unfortunate. I'm not a Brittany Griner fan. I mean, I'm not a huge NBA fan. But I think the Russians are just like invading Ukraine. They'll look for any reason, any excuse to do something, and they wanted those prisoners back, and now they've got a couple of bargaining chips here. So we probably will see a trade coming up at some point in time, which is a shame in that sense. But I don't think that there's no real justice in Russia, so I don't trust that system worth a darn to begin with.
Yeah.
With that.
Although Brittany just said no to drugs, she wouldn't be in this mess.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the other thing about it. It's just like I will say this. I have a problem with people, when they get caught with stuff like the weapons and the drugs and their luggage and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I was in a rush. I forgot I had it in there. It's like, come on, you know better than that. And you were trying to sneak something by somebody and you got
Let
caught.
me tell you, I got a friend who works for Center for Medicaid and Medicare, and he was cutting up a chicken for his salad, and he forgot the knife in there, and he randomly got searched when he came in, and he was sweating bullets. And obviously, he said, "Yeah, I forgot to do it. Take it out. I was in a rush this morning. And it's understandable. That's kind of but really? How do like, oh, I forgot to take the gun out of my bag. I'm sorry about that. Or, oh, those pills, how'd they get there? I thought I took them out before I came. It's like, come on. It's like,
I still remember. I mean, I did have because because of the stuff I was always schlepping those boxes of merchandise around for AIM at various
yeah.
conventions, and we were in Indianapolis. We flew to Indianapolis, and I had in one of my bags I had like a pocket knife or Swiss Army knife type of thing. Well,
Hmm.
I didn't realize it was in there, but it made it all the way. It made it through security in DCA, right at Reagan.
Hmm.
Uh, and I only realized that when I got to Indy. I'm like, oh wow, but what am I going to do with this darn thing? So I packed it back in my bag to take through Indy, and and I knew it was in there, but I thought, let's
Yeah.
just see what these guys are doing, with it. And they
Yeah.
caught it, but they couldn't find it. It took them like 20 minutes to find the stinking knife. I'm like,
Mm.
and then I said, just toss it or whatever, because I don't, and everything like that. But
Hmm.
I decided to make it look like an experiment to see, it's like, how efficient is TSA? So they see it on the scanner, the
Was
X-ray.
this post 9/11? I take it.
Yeah, but they couldn't figure out where the heck it was in my bag. And they had like 3 or 4 people searching through the bag. It's like unbelievable. It just and it's small things like that is one thing, because stuff like that gets forgotten. But
Okay.
when you're talking drugs, or you're talking a
Hmm.
weapon, or you're talking like a Bowie knife or something like that,
Hmm.
those are things those are big. And I mean,
How'd that machete get in there?
yeah, exactly. How
It's like, I was just doing some yard work, and I think I just must have thrown them in.
oh, I picked up the bag with the sickle in it, or what? It's just unbelievable. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for her, because she shouldn't have had the drugs to begin with. Okay, there's no excuse for that. Nevertheless, um,
Hmm.
I did want to say, so the RNC, they said 2024 convention in Milwaukee. You know, I'm all nonplussed about these conventions at this point in my life, anyway. But
Well, it might not be that bad. Milwaukee might not be. I mean, I thought Cleveland was not going to be a lot of fun, but Cleveland was a lot of fun. Milwaukee might be fun too.
I think they'll make it fun. But
Yeah.
it's like I think I'm just getting old and crotchety, thinking like, this doesn't excite me too much.
And Milwaukee is
Well,
Milwaukee's drivable. You could drive to
yeah,
Milwaukee.
and
I
and
just
you
don't
can
like
get
flying because
to other
I like the
places.
idea of having my own
Milwaukee.
car. Yeah.
Yeah, if you had a
Yeah.
car or whatever like this, you say, oh, let's go over to Chicago, right, or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I
See,
drove to Cleveland. I drove to Florida to Tampa for the convention.
yeah,
You know, I skipped Minnesota because no matter how much lipstick you apply on Minneapolis, it's still Minneapolis. You know, I've watched enough Mary Tyler Moore reruns to know there isn't much happening in Minneapolis. That's why Rhoda went back to New York City because she was bored.
all right. And my final is just this massive spending bill that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema have now agreed to with Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. The very slimmed down bill from
Yeah.
Build Back Better initially. It's a win for the Biden administration. I see the media, some of them are thinking like this might have a positive effect for the Democrats in November, but you know, it goes back to the thing. It's like, you talked about inflation at the beginning of the show. This is not going to help the situation. It's like
No, it's not.
all this money, $750 billion or whatever it is. This is not the answer, to things. I mean, but this is a typical Democrat thing. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we might be in a recession, or people might be hurting. So let's go ahead and spend more taxpayer money. No, 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 no. It's like this is why we're in a situation we're in now, and the Federal Reserve has been tightening. I mean, this could lead to even more interest rate hikes down the
Yep.
line. Continual, longer than expected, because they'll have thrown more money into the system that we don't need, we don't want right now.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Very true.
enough of my soapbox. On to you, Dwight.
Yeah. Yes, my soapbox. I turned 50 last Saturday, so
Happy birthday! Congratulations again. I guess I
yeah,
was in Indiana, right?
yeah. You're in Indiana, so now I get to, all the filters come off now. No more restraint. I'm 50 years old. I can say whatever thing that pops into my head. I know there's not going to be a shocker, Don. Me without filters. I could shake my fist at kids riding their bikes across in front of my house if I wanted to. and it'd be perfectly fine, you know. And but yeah, I've enjoyed 50. Let's see what the next 50 brings. You know, the first 50 have been action packed. I think I crammed maybe a couple of lifetimes into the first 50. Let's see what we can do the second half. I'm looking forward to taking it a little bit easier for the second half, frankly. Kind of stop and kick the liberals a little bit more, you know, opposed to just walking past the liberals. Just kidding. I am not going to kick a liberal or a progressive, you know, whatever they're calling themselves these days. You know, also, tomorrow is the very last end of an era, the very last Hogan KV pig roast over at the KV compound in the wild frontiers of northern Baltimore County, near the frontiers of the Pennsylvania line. You know, you should all go out there. MDGOP's newsletter that Jason sent out has a link to where to buy tickets. Plenty of tickets available, I understand. And, you know, I wonder if Dan Cox is going to show up for this, you know, in the sense of unity. I don't think he will, but you never know. And, yeah, show unity, you know, show that, you know, but anyways. And another final thought is, again, Don, do you remember when a certain Republican thought he should be allowed to give $10,000 to Joe Manchin, and we should all be proud that he gives 10,000? Hey, how's your Joe Manchin working out for you now? And it's like, yeah. See, as I've always said, you can't just because they're nice to us every now and then. They might agree with us, but you can't trust these people. You can't give them any money, for crying out loud. Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, they have turned into what they are, Democrats at the end of the day. I look forward to Senator Alex Mooney of West Virginia, working with him when he becomes the United States Senator from the great state of West by God, Virginia.
Yeah, I will say this. You're right about that in a sense. It's just that, you know, Republicans have got to remember, I mean, you know, I appreciate Manchin and Sinema holding things up and standing up for some things. And, you know, they have gummed up the work for the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, they still have a D by their name. And it was probably inevitable at some point that, you know, Schumer and company were going to find something, some way to spend. They were desperate to spend some kind of money and show they were doing something. And
hey, which relative do you think got a job out of bot? I wonder which relative or what kind of West Virginia is getting out of this deal, frankly. Maybe everyone in West Virginia is going to get a gold bullion or something like that, or a gold bullion cube, you know.
Yeah,
Does anybody know? Yeah.
More tax rebates, credits for EV, so they continue to pump the EV.
Yes. Oh, by the way, they did look out for the poor schlubs who can't afford $100,000 for an EV. You're getting $4,000 to buy a used EV. And by the way, Cadillac has their EVs out. It's $65,000. And
yeah,
Chevrolet.
I mean, my thing is that look, if we're gonna have if you know if EV credits rebates are gonna be the thing, and you can't, there's no way we can get around it because that's what the Congress, you know, and the Senate are going to pass. Then at least do it so that, you know, this part of the bill at least addresses some of the problems of the past, which is like anybody who bought an EV would get that $2,000 tax credit, file for the next tax return or whatever, until they sold X number of 200,000 cars or whatever. Now I think, you know, what it is that it's somewhat income based. I mean, it's like it's 150,000 if you're single, $300,000 if you're married. So that's a pretty wide swath anyway. And like you said, the 4,000 for the used ones. So, and you're going to get the money up front. Basically, they'll take it right off the deal at the beginning, and you don't have to file the taxes to get the.
I do like that, but you know, my Hummer has gone. When I pre-ordered, it was like 100 something. It was below 100,000. Now it's over $100,000 because of all the 9.1% inflation. So I'm probably going to cancel that and get the Cadillac. Cadillac is 65,000 right now, they're saying, and the Chevy Blazer EV is around 40. So I might pick one of those up instead, because best of all, it'll be a Cadillac.
I'm kind of wondering, you know, once they pass this thing and Biden signs it, which is probably inevitable, is what Elon Musk's strategy will be. You know, in terms of, I mean, you know, he's built all his businesses on the back of the U.S. taxpayers. Basically, he's taken full advantage of what the government, the taxpayers have been willing to give him. So having tax credits, rebates, whatever come back in, is a plus for him, except for the fact of what the maximums are, you know, based on the price of the car as well as the income. So I wonder if Elon will try to find a way to produce some lower cost EVs to try to get
Yeah,
more
that's
in
what
the
the Model 3s and the Model Ys are, in
yeah. But I
theory.
mean,
That's
he's got to keep the
this.
price down to a certain level in order to make
I
things.
think I think Chevrolet has the right idea of the Chevy Blazer start. I mean, the Chevy Bolt actually starts at about $30,000. That is kind of like the price point the average working person can afford easily without taking out a mortgage on a house for a car.
Well, yeah, your car payment on that would be reasonable if you're going to do it that if you're going to finance it.
I mean, even the Cadillac. I mean, in the big grand scheme of things, right now, if you went to buy a Cadillac, like the Cadillac sedan, you'd still pay about 65,000 for it. And if you're going to buy $65,000 sedan, get the Lyric for 65,000. And by the way, I think we're going to start seeing car prices drop because I was reading that the repo rate has gone up. So hopefully the price of cars will start dropping. And people who have been, I know several people that have been waiting to buy a car, but they just don't want to buy one right now in this economy, and the way it is. And hopefully, by sometime next spring, the price of cars they won't be selling them over invoice. You know, my very last thought, I went to a dealership. MSRP for a new Yukon just like mine was 68,000, but they were selling it at $77,000. That is insane. You know,
Now, if you can
that
get it,
is,
you don't have the supply, but you have the demand.
yeah, I know. It's like, it's just one of those crazy things, Oh, this is Joe Biden's America, everyone.
That's
Well,
right.
we warned you, everything's going to cost more. Did you know even the price of pencils and paper and books, notebooks have gone up? Like they were talking about back to school shopping, a lot of parents are doing that right around now. And it's pretty pricey. It's not cheap, and I know Peter Franchot has all his great wisdom, and he's giving a tax-free week for parents to buy things school-related for a week. How about we do a tax holiday on everything in Maryland for a month? I think that'd be great. And extended. Actually, I'll save that for next week. There's a particular extended warranty company that I particularly have this hatred for now. We bought a dishwasher in 2020, worked great. Then it started leaking water in late 2020. It took me 3 months for them to come out and look at it. They said they fixed it. Then it took them another 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get the part. They put the part in, still leaks. They come back again another 6, 8 weeks later. Same thing happens. They come back again. Same thing happens. And today I find out that, oh, we're only going to give you back what you paid for it, opposed to what they said, what the agreement used to say is that it said we will replace the dishwasher. And we're just going to send you. I'm like, something. What about inflation? What about the sales tax I paid on it? What about all the delivery and installation charges I've had?
Yes,
And
you
it's like,
lose.
yeah, yeah, and something. Good riddance. I don't think there. I used to buy appliances from Circuit City, and it was great. I just go there. They'd come out 3 times. They couldn't fix it. Just go to Circuit City. They'll write up a ticket. They'll give you a new stove, new refrigerator, whatever. There's something to be said about that. And it's not the business because I've bought a lot of appliances from Appliance Land. They're a great business, great company, but it's just that the warranty company is just really bad that they're using. Evidently, they've left them and they're using someone else now, which is great. But anyways, next week I will name the name of the company because I should have my check by then.
All right.
So, anyways, that's my final thought. Buyer beware, caveat emptor. These extended warranties sometimes are not worth the paper they're printed on. With
Exactly.
that, good night.
Good night, everyone.